transformative solutions, healthcare innovation is critical.
However, turning an innovative idea into a product that actually benefits and reaches patients is never easy. That's where NHIC comes in.
As a driver of change, we are always asking ourselves, how do we bring this idea to the patient and people to make a difference that matters?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to introduce you what's happening live on stage. I found a friend twinning with me today. A very warm welcome. I love that you're in the same color as me. And we also got plenty of space in front. My friends at the back, if you'd like to settle in as well, we've got plenty of seats right there, 2, 2, and 3 in front. Please make yourself comfortable. Next up is, of course, talking about opportunities and challenges for precision medicine solutions here in Asia. So on stage, we will explore how Asia can accelerate, of course, clinical adoption in oncology, chronic diseases, and age-related care. Now, I want to tell you that we do have the QR code for you to scan. If you'd like to send in your questions, we will do our very best with the time given to, of course, answer your question. If not, please be quick to catch our speakers before they leave the hall, of course, at the end of the session. Now, ladies and gentlemen, very happy to say that the next session is also brought to you by DXD Hub and supported by CRIS. I'll be inviting, of course, the moderator first, joined by the panelists to, of course, be on stage real soon as they, of course, talk about their views on clinical utility, regulation, and also funding strategies. I believe we are ready to welcome our moderator right now, along with our panelists. With great joy, I'd like to invite Dr. Anne Borsay, Senior International Access and Policy Leader at HAS4P Health Access Solutions, to moderate the sessions along with the panelists. Can we give her a round of applause? Welcome. As our panelists are coming on stage to join Dr. An, ladies and gentlemen, gear up for another exciting discussion live on stage. Please be seated. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It's really inspiring to see this room filled with innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders who are shaping the future of healthcare. I would like to start with a thought that guided medicine for millennia. When Hippocrates said, it's far more important to know the person the disease has rather than the disease the person has. He's speaking about the essence of individualized care. Fast forward, that vision is finally within our grasp. And thanks to breakthroughs such as precision medicine, genomics, and AI, we have moved from population-based to personalized care, from one-size-fits-all to precision medicine. So we really see that science has made it possible. However, adoption of precision medicine is still lagging. Funding is limited, infrastructure fragmented, and policies are still evolving. So how do we address these barriers to scale up precision medicine in Asia, moving from pilots to population-level impact, especially in Asia, where the burden of cancer, chronic diseases, and aging population is only accelerating? To answer this question, I'm honored to be joined by remarkable leaders who represent different perspectives and stakeholders in the precision medicine ecosystem. The clinician perspective, on my far side, Dr. Koichi Goto, Chief of the Department of Thoracic Oncology at the National Cancer Center Hospital East in Japan. He is a world-renowned and pioneering oncologists whose work in identifying rare genetic mutations in non-small cell lung cancer has advanced precision oncology in Asia and worldwide. The service provider perspective, Ashok Pandit, Group Chief Corporate Officer at IHH Healthcare, one of the region's leading private healthcare operator in integrated care, with precision medicine services already implemented in 2 centers in Singapore and India. He joined IHH in 2021 after nearly 3 decades of investment banking, bringing deep experience in mergers, acquisitions, and capital raising across Asia Pacific. The pharmaceutical manufacturer perspective, Thi Hui Ho, Vice President for Oncology for the international region at AstraZeneca, driving targeted therapies that have redefined what patient outcomes can look like. Thi Hui brings over 25 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and consumer health industries, and he has previously served as president of AstraZeneca operations in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. A passionate advocate for patient access and health system collaboration. And lastly, Hugo, who provides the AI-driven startup perspective and innovation. He's co-founder and CEO of Kian Technologies, a Singapore-based innovator using AI-driven theranostic platform to identify optimal treatment combinations for cancer patients. With over 15 years of international leadership in healthcare, and tech consumer industries, Hugo has held senior commercial roles in Hello Health Group and Mundi Pharma across Latin America and in Asia. So, to begin with, we'd like to hear from Dr. Koichi Goto, who will share with us a remarkable real-world example of how precision medicine has transformed the treatment landscape for lung cancer in Asia. The LC Scrum initiative that was initially launched in Japan.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Koichi Goto. It's a great honor for me to present here. So please show the slide. And as you know, providing the most appropriate treatment to each patient is called precision medicine. And lung cancer is the most best type for most progress of precision medicine in oncology. And when we diagnosed lung cancer, we get the tissue sample, and simultaneously we perform genomic analysis to identify the driver mutation for lung cancer. And if we identify the driver oncogene, such as EGFR, ROS1, and etc., we should provide the most appropriate treatment to each patient. This is a typical precision medicine. And 30 years ago, the survival prognosis is very bad in patients with advanced lung disease. Maybe a median survival time is 10 to 12 months. However, after we establish a precision medicine, we can provide the appropriate, effective molecular agent. The median survival time is double or triple. Currently, a median survival time more than 3 years. Next slide. And this is a busy slide. However, the lung cancer with, for example, ROS1 and RET is a very rare driver oncogene. So it is very difficult for us to conduct clinical trial for this rare affliction. So we established genomic screening in Japan, named ELSISCLAM Asia, to identify the lung cancer with rare affliction and to enroll the various clinical trials. For this, it was initiated 2013, and for this 12 years, more than 25,000 patients already enrolled. And also, this project was supported by more than 20 pharmaceutical companies supported our genomic screening. So we can identify various driver oncogenes and to enroll a lot of patients to clinical trial. Based on the project, more than 10, currently 14 molecular agents have been already approved and reimbursed in Japan. So in Japan, in clinical practice, we can do precision medicine in clinical practice. Next slide. Our project is now expanding outside Japan, included Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, and Taiwan. Unfortunately, not including Singapore. However, Singapore company Mylexus we are shipping the sample from Thailand to Malaysia and from Philippines to Singapore. Mylexus supported our genomic screening. So in East Asia and also Southeast Asia collaboration promote the precision medicine in lung cancer. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koichi Goto, for sharing this powerful example of how discoveries that was in the research labs really are now transforming patient lives with lung cancer, really extending their life expectancy from months to years. So I would like to ask our panelists, what are some of the real-world examples they have witnessed through their lenses? So maybe I can start with you, Tihui, as a pharmaceutical companies such as AstraZeneca, who have been very keen in translating the promise of precision medicine into real-world impact through targeted therapies. Can you share how adoption of precision medicine has been accelerated through the research in pharmaceuticals?
Thank you very much, Anne, for the question. And as Dr. Goto has mentioned, biomarker-driven therapeutics actually dramatically change how oncology is being practiced. In AstraZeneca, for example, 70% of our pipeline and our portfolio comes with a specific biomarker. And what we do is we work with, healthcare professionals as well as providers to actually do the the sequencing of the biomarkers in order to identify the right biomarkers. One specific example that Dr. Goto has already given is lung cancer, whereby we have actually been able to change survival from months to years. But the other example I would give is actually in breast cancer, right? HER2 breast cancer, a few decades ago, is the most deadly cancer subtype, whereby treatment is actually very limited. But with HER2 targeted treatments right now, we are looking at even at metastatic stage where patients actually can survive for years. And therefore, that's another example that we are seeing the transformation there, and that extends to multiple cancer types to include prostate cancer, GI cancers, and so on and so forth. Right? So a lot of examples that we can give, but I think there's an explosion of biomarker that we can actually use to target and individualize treatment for many patients.
Thank you very much. And I think that it's really beautiful illustration of that explosion that is also coming, from the research and development of pharmaceutical companies to the service provider and Ashok. How can care actually be improved when precision medicine has been implemented in integrated care centers that IHH has implemented in Singapore and India, and how do you measure success in your clinics?
Great, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. So IHH has around 140 facilities in over 10 countries. We've got over 500 labs. We've got 2 focus genomic centers, one Fortis in Gurugram, India, and second Mount Elizabeth Navina in Singapore itself. What we want to do is be more proactive rather than reactive when it comes to treatment. Also ensure better patient care. Now, 2 examples have been given, one for lung cancer and the other for breast cancer. And in India, we've had an example where through our labs and through a quick turnaround when it comes to genomic testings in our lab, we've been able to give a patient oral medication for lung cancer, improving the quality and also ensuring that the patient has a better outcome. So no long chemotherapy, longer survival rate. It's a good example. But in this case, the challenge is still the payment was made by the patient itself, not by the payer. The second example for breast cancer, again, coming out of India, early detection, which is very critical. Stage 0 breast cancer was detected. Clinically, we were able to sort the patient out. But more importantly, it saved a lot of money for the patient, in multiples of 5 or 10 times through early diagnosis. Now, to me, I think as a group, we are very focused on this vertical. We're very focused to make sure that the hospitals and our labs are fully integrated. A lot of the tests, especially full genomic testing, which was going to the US, is now being done in our labs in our 4 countries, Singapore, Malaysia, India, and Turkey, which is helping us to offer these kind of therapies to our patients. To me, there are 2 factors which will determine the success. I think it's very, very clear clinically, and the example given by Dr. Gota itself, that this will benefit the patient immensely, precision medication. But there are 2 challenges. One is, how do we bring out the cost? And to me, that is, if the size of testing or our labs are running tests in large volumes, the cost comes down. And second is just working as a partnership with our payers, with the government, with other service providers, and also with technology and data and AI players to ensure that we can get the cost of the therapies down, and second, get the payers to understand the benefit in terms of coverage to patients, which is not the case today.
Right. And really love the way you articulate what are some of the success factors in really scaling up and accelerating the adoption of precision medicine. And you're touching on 2 important points that we are going to dig a bit deeper in this panel discussion on access and funding and partnerships. But before we go that, maybe as an innovator, we often see, and a lot in the audience can feel that innovation moves faster maybe than what the health system can absorb. From your experience implementing an AI-driven theranostic platform, where do you see the precision medicine innovations being adopted maybe better that matches the pace of AI-driven discovery, and why?
So I think one of the biggest gaps that we're still trying to answer for the treatment of cancer is actually patient and tumor heterogeneity. So precision medicine has actually evolved a lot over the years, which Dr. Gota-san has explained. And we've seen the growth and we've seen the clinical impact that it's had. But given how challenging it is to actually treat patients, we really have to start to look beyond biomarker-driven ways to treat patients. So Kayan's approach is really identifying, if we want to find out how patients are going to respond to treatments, why don't we just test the treatments directly against the patient cancer cells and find out what's going to work versus what's not going to work, but more importantly also design and discover different combinations. So I do want to actually talk about real-world evidence because there's two ways that we're trying to confirm that, and highlight that answer. One is obviously through clinical studies, but one of the things that we're also very focused on is generating real-world evidence case studies and case series with clinicians, with patients. One of my favorite case studies of what we've done at Kayan with clinicians, and this was with Dr. Valerie Yang at NCCS here in Singapore. We had a sarcoma patient who had two different sites of her tumor, one in the liver and one in her brain. The liver met was actually accessible at the time, so we ran our test to identify which drugs would be best suitable for her patients. Unfortunately, biomarker-driven was not really a way to find a specific drug for her. Once we actually identified a drug, the patient had partial response, which was fantastic, especially for soft tissue sarcoma. After that response, the patient actually got pregnant. So she had to stop treatment. Obviously, once you stop treatment, the cancer is progressing. After she finished going through labor, her brain tumor actually grew quite a bit. So we were then able to access her brain tumor, test that as well. And then we found common drugs between the brain tumor and the liver mets, which she was then able to get treated on, and she was able to get actually stabilized. We maintained that patient alive for more than 2 years, which is really remarkable for this type of patients. So I'll tell you guys this story because I think real-world evidence generation is extremely important. I think actually going beyond clinical trials, which everything's set up, you're always screening the right patients to go into your studies. It's a really good way to actually identify ways to really advance innovation into this field.
A beautiful story, and I think that, how can we turn these success stories into a system-wide change that can really help to incentivize innovation. And let's go into the more details on how can we enable better access and funding for innovation. And I'd like to go back to Dr. Goto and the example that he has shared for Japan that began its journey in precision medicine in the around 2010s. But it was only around 2019 where the next generation sequencing and companion diagnostics were reimbursed in Japan, where we have seen really an acceleration in the adoption of precision medicine in Japan, right? So maybe you can share a little bit more, concretely in clinical practice, how does that reimbursement help to incentivize clinicians to adopt more precision medicine?
Okay, as you said, currently in Japan is merged with NGS was already approved and reimbursed in Japan. So in clinical practice, we use NGS analysis and to identify the driver oncogene positive patient, and we can provide the molecular agent. However, in currently, about 10 driver oncogene is useful to provide the active drug. So large volume NGS panel is not needed. So cost-effective small panel is really needed in clinical practice. So in Japan is CDX, companion diagnosis in lung cancer is most extremely important. So prior first-line treatment, we performed CDX panel with a compact panel to identify driver oncogene. And after standard treatment, we use a CGP panel, a large panel, to identify the resistance genomic alteration and to enroll the various clinical trials. So companion diagnosis is the most important. In addition, database establishment is also very important. And currently, we are mainly use genomic alteration to provide the precision medicine. However, currently we included protein expression, omics analysis in our screening. So data volume is so large, so we should establish a large database. So currently, LC Scrum Asia is have a spin-off venture company, Precision Medicine Asia, named Premier. CEO Ikeda-san is in floor, and he managed the clinical genomic database. This database is every pharma can access freely to get clinical genomic information. So we would like to support the clinical development of a molecular agent for a pharmaceutical company. Okay.
Thank you so much, and I think that both yourself and Hugo, you have touched on something really critical in demonstrating the value of precision medicine around data and real evidence, and that value demonstration is absolutely critical to get reimbursement and access. So Hugo, could you maybe share a little bit on how, as innovator, how do you navigate the complexity of the value demonstration and fragmented reimbursement?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest challenge, I think, for precision medicine. We did a advisory board meeting about a year ago with commercial payers in the US. And they actually said exactly what Dr. Goto-san said. Panels are getting larger, clinical utility is not getting better, so why should I pay more? In Asia, I think we're even further behind when it comes to reimbursement for precision medicine solutions, especially for novel technologies like Cayenne. So obviously we focus on two areas of funding for us in this part of the world. It is, as Ashok said, patients paying out of pocket. So there is a pocket of patients who have the ability to access novel technologies and get treatment. But obviously that's not enough. Another pocket that we really try to collaborate a lot is with investigators and clinicians who can access grant funding in order to advance their questions or support their patients. I mean, just yesterday morning, I had a conversation with a clinician from Australia. He's been tracking Cayenne for about 2 years, and he's like, Hugo, let's have a conversation. How are you guys doing? I said, we're doing very well. Explain the progress. He said, okay, I want to start sending you patients who can pay out of pocket, but I also want to work with you to write a grant to be able to then run a research program with you, so we can get access to for your technology for additional patients. So I think we have to get creative on how to access funding, because raising capital is also something that we shouldn't always be doing. We need to find ways to get our tests reimbursed and accessible to patients.
Yeah. So I think that I would like to turn to you, Ashok, because you, in what you have just said earlier about patients nowadays have to pay themselves to benefit from precision medicine. One of the ways to address it, and you are already working with government and payers to address this huge barrier. Can you share a little bit what needs to be done and what kind of partnerships we could consider, and when does the public sector needs to bring in the private sector to reduce these barriers?
Okay, I think first it starts a little bit internally within IHH Healthcare. We've got different initiatives. We've got a investment fund, early stage investment fund. We've invested in a Singapore company called Lucence, amongst others, that's into early stage cancer detection. We've also now introduced a new global innovation incubator program where we want to fund new startups, especially on the health tech side. And we've also started a $5 million clinical research sandbox. So one is the internal push. The second, it comes to how do we make sure that we get large volumes, because once you have volumes, you can start bringing the cost down, especially on the testing side. Big component of precision medicine is the cost of testing, and then obviously the cost of the drug. So second is cost. Third element is partnership. I think this precision medicine's future depends on collaboration and partnership. One is partnership between service providers, payers, pharma companies, governments. It's super critical that this works. That's the only way to get the cost down. The other element in this, which is very important, is good data. And right now we've got issues in terms of data mobility from one country to the other because there are a lot of regulations. And this is I think I've got a lot of hope in technology, AI, and I'm sure over the course of the next few years, we'll be able to have some sort of technology which uses a sort of a federated model, which is we have a central system, we've got data in different countries, but we are able to use the data from different countries without actually bringing the data out. That'll be a big game changer. Now, coming back specifically in terms of partnership with the public sector, I think that's very, very important. If I just look at how do we, one of the areas I said our investment is Lucence, but one big challenge is the cost. Now, the cost can only be brought down if you do large-scale testing, and that's where the private and public partnership can work. We both don't need to do this. We can do this as a partnership. And once you're able to drive volumes, you can get the cost down. I think that's probably a very important step that needs to be taken. And then, of course, engagement with the payers, which is more something which is going to take a little bit more time to make sure that the patient gets reimbursed for these therapies, which give them better outcome by the payers.
Absolutely. And let's, get to that precisely topic of the payer, which currently the current payment system is geared towards rewarding acute and episodic treatment, where precision medicine doesn't fit in. So how do we enable preventive and personalized care? And do you see public and private partnerships as a way to address this dissonance? Tiwei, any of your insights?
No, absolutely. I think public-private partnership is absolutely important. And let's just get back to molecular diagnostics and the funding. The challenge that Dr. Godo and Ashok mentioned is how do you get the payers to fund for it? And the way to address that is actually to bring the cost down. And to bring the cost down, you need scale. The issue is, what are you testing for? Do you test for specific biomarkers in small panels or single gene tests? Or do you test for broad-based panels? And I don't think there's an agreement to that, right? Because, if you're looking at clinical care, you want a small panel that is actionable, or from a research point of view, you want a big panel. And I think that's where, the public and the private and multiple players need to sit down together and agree, right? Because even if you're testing a 500 gene large panel, if you have enough scale, it's actually not expensive, right? So I think we need to be able to get to that.
I think that's a great point. And I think, I come back to it's all about all the partners in the ecosystem sitting together and solving it. And I'm fairly confident that it's something that can be addressed. We have great partnership with our payers as well, because we do need to work with them to ensure that the patient actually gets good treatment at a good price, but is also paid through by the payer as well.
Yeah.
But if I may add, sorry, Ashok, and so to your point, is the partnership with the payer is important. But the other thing that we can actually help bring down cost is also to think about novel ways of diagnostics, and one example that I recently spoke to a company in the US is using basic histopathology slides to actually be able to predict some of the lung cancer biomarkers like EGFR, ALK, ROS1, and KRAS with more than 90% accuracy. Right? So that's a basic, H&E slide that costs next to nothing. Of course, you then need to have a confirmatory PCR test. So novel technologies like this, and also, like the one that Hugo mentioned, could potentially be able to bring down or make precision medicine more accessible.
Sorry, I'm going to have
Great,
to
yeah.
jump in. This is too exciting of a topic. We also need to look at the cost beyond just the cost of the test. Whenever we talk about the cost, is the cost of the test, the treatment, how much time the patient spends into the hospital. So, I mean, for us, the best way to really address the cost for the ecosystem is have a better prediction of which drugs and which treatments will work versus not work. But it definitely goes just beyond the cost of the test.
Like, beautiful. I love the discussion, and I was really hoping to involve you in the audience to also ask questions, but I'm told that I have 4 seconds left to close up, to wrap up. But I really enjoyed the discussion and the different perspective on how can we move forward to provide patient access to more of that precision medicine, because really precision medicine gives us powerful tools to transform healthcare by truly putting the patient, the individual, at the center of care. So it will come through collaboration to address some of these barriers, especially access and funding, as we have just heard from our panelists. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we have another big round of applause for our panelists and Dr. An for being our moderator as well? We will see you downstage. Remember, you have a few quick seconds to catch them before they leave the hall today for all your questions. As they come downstage, ladies and gentlemen, we have one more session to go. Can we give them another big round of applause as they
In
come
a world
down?
grappling with unprecedented health crises, the shortcomings of conventional healthcare approaches are evident.